What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the JoeyH podcast. Today, we got a special guest with us, someone I've been trying to get on this podcast for a while. I've known this man since freshman year of high school, Mr. Christian Murphy. How are you today?
And doing good, bro. How about you?
I'm doing good, man. I can't complain. I really appreciate you for doing this. So, my first question to you is where did you grow up and what was it like?
So I grew up in Dania Beach, Florida. I was a kid that moved around a lot. So I was in McDonough, Georgia for a minute, and then ended up moving back to Florida. And I did to a couple of different schools, playing sports and stuff. So I mean, like it was a little bit difficult, especially in certain environments of what I seen. But God prevails in all. So I was able to succeed. Even throughout how I grew up. And I just had two great parents. So, you know, God be with them.
Amen, bro. I love that. I love that. So, as you mentioned, you grew up in Dania Beach and then, you moved around a little bit, but ultimately you started your high school career at St. Thomas. What led to your decision to go there?
So I was at a camp called the Keon Dooling basketball camp. My coach, Coach Bynes, he actually knew Coach Nelson, who at the time was going to be like the new head coach of the basketball team, and he recruited me onto his AAU team, was like South Florida Disciples. And as an eighth grader, I was able to join a ninth grade team. From there, I decided I was like, you know what, I want to go to St. Thomas Aquinas since it was like the coach that wanted me. And I didn't hear about it at first, how big St. Thomas was until I got there. And my brother was telling me too. Yeah, like I loved my decision to go there too.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And, kind of circling back, because I remember, when I first met you, you were a basketball guy and, and you went to St. Thomas, I remember specifically for basketball, but what led to your decision to make the switch over to football?
I wasn't getting as much playtime in basketball, and it was just a lot of, I guess you could say, a lot of drama between me and the coach, not really much the players, but just really the coach at the time. Things just felt weird. I wasn't really playing as much, and I was really working hard, but just didn't get the play time I really wanted. I saw, a lot of my friends, majority of our friends and our classmates were on the football team. So I was like, you know what, let me try and go over there to the football team. And I talked to Coach Harriet, and I talked to the freshman year football coach, freshman team football coach. And, I just went out there and I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew I wanted to play and I just knew I wanted to do something.
Right.
So yeah, that's what ultimately led my decision to play football.
Okay, okay. And uh so you were at St. Thomas freshman and sophomore year, and then eventually COVID hit and junior year rolls around and you decide to transfer to Dillard. So what led to your decision to do that?
So when COVID hit, there was a problem with at St. Thomas at the time. They like their tuition had went up, I think like $1,000 more than what it was. And at that time nobody was working. So my mom wasn't working at the time. I think my dad was working, but he was even getting sick, and he even got COVID at one time. So
Mm,
like I'm saying, thank God he's alive because we almost lost him during COVID. So I didn't really have that financial backing I needed to stay at St. Thomas, and I don't think the financial aid office didn't open before they wanted their first payment. So my mom said, "Yeah, Chris, there's no way I can be able to afford this when we're not working because it's COVID." And I was like, "I understand." A coach called me up and heard that I was like interested in transferring schools, and it was Coach Tate, and I talked to Coach Tate, and I eventually ended up going to Dittle High School after watching them. Like the previous year, they actually had went against Miami. They actually were undefeated and went against Miami Central, but lost in the playoffs. So I was like, oh, this is a pretty good team, pretty decent team. They got some really good guys there. I was like, I want to be part of that.
I got you. I got you. And that's interesting to hear because I never really got the full story as to why you left. And I do remember that year, that 2019 year, Dillard. They they did they did go on a run, and I'm not yeah, they ended up playing Central. So eventually you transfer over to Dillard, and uh you know, I think your senior year you guys kind of go on a tear. What was that like?
And it was definitely a battle. I definitely enjoyed it a lot, especially with those guys. I mean, we were such a young team too. Like we were a very young team, and we had a lot of talented guys. I mean, like a lot of those guys, we had like Bugs Mortimer, we had Najalik, we had fantastic DBs and receivers. But one thing that I'll probably say when we went against St. Thomas, which was our first loss that season, and actually our only loss for the regular season, I'll probably say the difference was really like that tradition. We didn't have that tradition foundation because as a freshman coming into St. Thomas, like I didn't know, St. Thomas for football because I was much of a basketball guy. But once I got in there, I got in that room, it was heavy on tradition. This is what we do. We are supposed to win. You're supposed to follow directions. You're supposed to go up the film. Like I remember I didn't come up with a notebook. And then Derek Wingo was looking at me, he's like, bro, you gotta have a notebook, bro. Like I was like, a notebook for a film? Like I didn't like understand all that. And they had like a very good foundation because they've been doing this for years, no matter what coach has come in. Dillard, it was a little different because they were coming off one of their coaches that was building that tradition. He had recently had passed away during
Right.
COVID. So then when Coach Tate came in, he came from Chaminade, but he was a previous Dillard alumni. So when he came in, it was like kind of like everybody's kind of like learning him. Everybody's like kind of being new transfers and stuff like that. But they still had a solid foundation that the previous coach, Coach Frazier, had, but not as long as St. Thomas did. And there was still it just wasn't as many leaders and much as not as much as I probably say resources as much as St. Thomas did too. So yeah, but I'll say Dillard that run, it was still really, really good. I think we could have even went to the States and actually played St. Thomas the second time in the playoffs, but we just did not have that solid, traditional foundation.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, I remember that year as well. You guys were. It was like a really like it was a highly talked about matchup. It was you guys versus Deerfield, and then I guess halfway during the game, Deerfield decided to leave. It was something like that.
Yeah, from what I remember we playing Deerfield and we were doing really, really good and it was a very hype game. I mean, it was a lot of people at that game too.
Right.
During halftime they left and we thought they were quitting too, but apparently one of the people over there, I guess one of the players there actually tested positive for COVID, and this is when
Oh,
if you tested positive, like you couldn't play the game at all. So I think one or two of them tested positive for COVID, and then like I guess like who's ever over like the Broward County like football teams like the FHSAA, they heard about it and found out and was like, dude, you got to go.
wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
so during halftime is when like they found out and they came and like they were like, you got to leave.
Wow, that's nuts.
Hmm.
All
That's
right.
one of the craziest games I've been a part of.
I know it's crazy. And by the way, shout out to Dillard's band. By the way, you guys got the best high school band like
Oh
out there.
yeah, shout out Diller Band, man. Yeah.
They're fire. All right. So, what led to your decision to attend or commit to Western Carolina?
So I met the coaches. I was talking to Coach Cade for a long time, which was the OC at Western Carolina at the time, and Coach JJ, and he was a receivers coach, but their district was in Florida. And I was talking to him for a long time. There was a kid there who actually went to Dillard, was just Poppy, and everybody knows Poppy in Broward County. And he was a small, scrawny kid, but like he was amazing. Like I mean, this dude was super fast, super quick off the ball. He trading with gold feet. Like I knew about Poppy since I was at St. Thomas. Like and like he was killing people. I remember watching him in like these receiver and DB 101s and just killing them. He actually ended up going to Western Carolina, and I saw Dez, the running back from Miramar. He was the first to actually commit to Western Carolina, and then I started seeing a lot of guys in Broward County commit to him, and I was like, I was like, you know what, this might be the move. Because, they really wanted me. They came and visited my home and everything. I think the thing that solidified it for me was when I was trying to find my major. At the time, I got into acting at the Dillard Performing Arts Center.
Mm.
And I saw they had a theater program, and all the other schools that had offered me didn't have a theater program. And I was like, I think this is it because the theater program was pretty good, and the football team, it's just, like he was starting over like Coach Kerwin Bell. He had just got there, so it was like, okay, we can build like a foundation. We could really like, what I'm saying, they were talking about like freshmen like me like are starting and stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. So that's what ultimately led to my decision, just like the major of theater, acting, and also just like I can be the face of this team along with like people from Broward County and Miami and South Florida. We can really propel this team up and go win a championship.
That's great, man. That's great. And eventually, you transfer to where you're at now, Clark Atlanta University. What led to your decision to do that?
So my freshman year at Western, I tore like everything in my leg. Like I tore
Mm.
everything, tore everything in my knee. And I was doing really good that camp. I was doing really, really good that camp. After that injury, it was just a lot of things mentally I was just going through. I just like, I really had time to really figure stuff out. I already had to fight with my faith, fight with myself mentally, depression and all that. So by the time I came back to playing football, we had a new defensive coordinator, and I'm still going through this stuff mentally, and I wasn't being productive as I should have been. And in 2024 is when I came back because it took me 2 years to really recover from that injury. And 2024, I came back in that spring, and then a year rolled around in spring of 2025. And I did better. I got better. I was making some plays, but I just could not get back to where I was my freshman year of 2022. I just could never get that back that fast, that skill. Like I don't know, it's just something about that injury. Like every time I felt like I was getting closer, like I would get an injury in my knee would start aching, it would get swollen or something. Yeah, I just could never get back. And when we had our exit meeting, he was just like, like I understand the knee thing, but like we don't really have any like plans for you to play because they had guys that they had some young guys that they were bringing up. There were some older guys that are already in my class that were playing, and then he was bringing in some other people that were like transfers, and so along people with other freshmen they were recruiting too. And I was going to go in special teams, but the special teams coordinator that we had got another job. So then we had a new special teams coordinator, and I was in the back of that line. So I was like, you know what? I just prayed about it. I was like, I knew I wanted to go to Atlanta. And I didn't really want to go to Atlanta much for school, but really there was this place called 2819 Church. And 2819 Church was the church that really helped me grow my faith when I was going through all that depression and stuff. And I was a digital disciple of 2819 Church, and it really helped me my faith and my prayer life. So when I was praying about it, the things that came into mind, I think God put in me was just Clark and Morehouse, and I was like, Clark and Morehouse. And I've always wanted to be at a HBCU. I'm the first in my family on mom's side to actually even go to college, but especially the first one to go to a HBCU. And
Mm.
it's HBCUs as much as like a lot of Black people's culture and things like that. And the Atlanta's called like the Black Mecca and stuff. And I looked up some more research, and I found Atlanta has a lot of like acting, especially a lot of Black actors. Like Tyler Perry Studios is like right down the street. I mean, they come here a lot too. And I'm also part of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which is a Black D9 fraternity. And there's a lot of people that are D9 here that actually want to help collegiate kids. And I was like, you know what? I think Atlanta is the move. And I talked to God about it. And I was, even though I was risking my full ride scholarship, because I could have stayed at Western Carolina and finished out my degree. And I could have been graduating this upcoming May if I stayed at Western, but I think God had other plans for me. So I decided to come to Clark Atlanta. And yeah, I don't regret my decision, even though I gave it my full ride. I was still able to get some scholarship money from Clark. And I'm just so grateful that I'm here. Like every time I walk on campus and every time I played on that field, I was like, I thank God I really made it to Atlanta because I really didn't think I was gonna be able to make it here.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I gotta tell you, I've only been like in the city of Atlanta like once. I was like 12 years old, and yeah, from what I can remember, really big. I mean, and also the traffic was crazy. But I,
Yeah.
I passed through the airport a few times. But I do have to ask you. The reason why I'm saying all this is because I'm going to ask you, this question. What has the city of Atlanta been like to you?
It was a little rough when I got here. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little rough when I got here. I remember, because we were just searching online for like apartments and stuff, and if you know anything about HBCUs and housing, they don't really got none. So we couldn't really find any dorms, and then it's Atlanta, so the apartments are very, really high. So we set a budget and stuff like that, and we found like an apartment. But I mean, like it's almost like in the hood and everything.
Yeah,
But I mean, the people here are amazing though. I'd probably say it has humbled me to really think about my faith a lot too. Because there's a lot of distractions here in Atlanta. I mean, especially here at Clark, Atlanta. It's like it's like the men to women ratio is like 17-1. So yeah, so like it's a lot. You can really get caught up. Homecoming is a big culture here. Like the homecoming is huge. Pageants are huge. Yeah, it's just, but it's also, the way that a lot of people run HBCUs. I'm learning like, the difference between how they run PWIs and how they run HBCUs is a lot different. But the city overall has been absolutely like amazing. Like I love Atlanta. Like I definitely want to live here for the rest of my life. Just because the acting opportunities that are here that can be like on film and on stage, like at a Lions Theater or like on some Tyler Perry film or The Walking Dead. Like a lot of films are filmed right here in Georgia. Like Avengers was filmed at Fayetteville, Georgia, and I'm like, that's not too far away from me. So like, so I can just drive up there, what I'm saying, and help out be a PA or get an audition or something. But also, I just love the city. I just feel pulled to the city, and then my church is here, and I just love 2819 Church and the people there. And that's one thing. That's one of the biggest reasons I don't want to leave, because I don't want to leave, be a digital disciple again, because I really love coming to the church.
great, man. That's awesome. And I do want to ask you, when I was in high school, I remember you loved the superhero Black Panther, and the actor that played him, Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul. And what was the inspiration behind that?
If I'm being honest, Black Panther, the superhero, was huge because it was the first Black superhero that I really ever got to see, that was like dope. Like I mean, like he was built. I mean, he could do karate, he could do all this type of stuff. He was a king, and I don't really see much of that in like in real life at the time growing up. I didn't really see a lot of Black people in like huge houses, call themselves kings. I didn't see a lot of like Black superheroes, and if they were Black superheroes, they always had the same superpower. So it was always like something to do with electricity. And like, and there's nothing wrong with like, I should shout out to my dog Static Shock and Black Lightning, but something about Black Panther, which is hugely different, because I didn't really know my African roots, and it helped me want to just explore that, like, where exactly am I from in Africa? Because I mean, I asked my parents and they didn't really know. My grandparents don't really know. So it helped me really understand like who I am. And actually took an African ancestry DNA test, which I actually learned from Chadwick Boseman through an interview from the Breakfast Club podcast. He was like, "You need to take the African ancestry test." I took it and I found out that I'm from Ghana. And I remember I was like, "Oh, that's like," it was a big deal for me, because it was just like, dang, like I actually know where I'm from now. A lot of African Americans don't know like their roots to Africa. But I mean, like it's okay, because you're saying you're still African American, you're African American. It really did want me to explore all that. And then with Chadwick, really build my inspiration for acting, to be honest, because he went to Howard, and I was hearing his story of how he became an actor and things like that, and really inspired me to be like, what, I might try this acting out, because I was still undecided, but I remember I was like, huh, if I would be an actor, like I would want to do the roles he does.
All right, all right. That's great to hear. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Chadwick Boseman and that movie that came out, Black Panther. You know, I remember watching that in the theater for the first time. I remember thinking like, this is one of the more better superhero movies I've ever seen. So it was definitely cool. Now, Christian, I ask this question to almost everyone that comes on my platform. It's a very open ended question. I get a lot of open ended answers. You know, it could go one way, it could go another way. Uh, what motivates you?
Right now, the things that motivate me, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, it really pulled me out of some stuff and really showing me that the world has a lot of fleshly or fleshly desires, and like it's just something to do with like the flesh that we have. It makes us have wants to do evil, and I have to. It's a constant reminder to myself that when I'm thinking about eternity, when I'm thinking about Jesus Christ, that it is a denying of myself. My pastor, Philip Anthony Mitchell, he always wears black because every day for him is a funeral. It's a reminder that you should die to your flesh, and that's one thing I've started doing now. I started wearing all black just as a reminder that it is a denying of your flesh, and no matter what I do, I hold those Christian standards. Like if I'm doing like a play or a musical, TV show, a movie, a student film, I want to make sure this glorifies Christ in some type of way. Like I don't want to do a role and not have his permission. I'm like, Lord, can I do this? And like, does this glorify you? You know what I'm saying? What am I doing to be a better servant towards you? Am I being a good steward? Well, because I do apologetics, and one of our mottos at my church is until all have heard. And I feel called to help a lot of black people that are going into other faiths, not understanding that there is only one way. I know people say like, oh, there's many gods, or there could be several different ways. This is like, no, there is only one. It actually makes more sense that there's one, because there's more historical and scientific evidence that Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose after 3 days, and it's just undeniable. Even our own uh clock of, I'm saying, like our own calendar years
Yes.
revolve around that, like it's like 2026 years ago. You know what I'm saying? This was when Christ was on earth, and when he rose from the dead and defeated death. Like, how far are you actually going? Or are you just hearing stuff from TikTok and other people and being like, oh, well, I'm going to believe them and, get away from Christianity? It's like, no, it's not about you following the Ten Commandments. It's not about you following these certain rules. It's about your faith with Jesus Christ. And I think when that's what motivates me every day. It's just like, how can I help bring people to Jesus? Because I mean, there's nothing I can do to I can't force anybody to
Hmm.
be a Christian, but I can plant a seed in them and just be like, try and ask yourself these questions of like, like, where does morality come from? Where does that feeling come from? You're like, talk to a lot of agnostics and atheists. I'm like, where do all those things come from? You think a big bang and boom, we have perfect life on accident? Like that makes no sense. So you want to. Always want to be a person who plants a seed in somebody, because I knew I needed that. Like I wish I had this faith I have now. Like now, like I remember, like growing up, they were like, like, oh man, you gotta have a lot of sex, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and I'm like, man, these things like really feel empty. But once I got Christ, I was like, I really feel full, and I feel like, I just feel called to do that, and that's what just motivates me every single day. It's just like, how can I be a better steward to God? Am I doing God's will, or is this my fleshly will?
All right. No, that's beautiful. That's honestly beautiful. You know, again, like I said, I get a lot of open ended answers on that question. So, it's no, I don't believe I've ever heard an answer like that before, and I appreciate you going into detail. Now, my last question before we end this interview is what can we expect from you in the future?
One thing you can expect from me in the future, I'll probably say me continuing that faith, me making sure that until all have heard, making sure all have heard the gospel and the good news. But also, you should expect me on some stage plays. Probably should expect me on Broadway. You should expect me on at Alliance Theater or your local theater. You should probably expect me on that screen that you watch every day on TikTok or Netflix or Prime Video, Tubi. I think God has some big plans for me, and I'm getting trained very, very well in acting here at Clark Atlanta University. And man, I mean, like the training I'm getting here and the things I'm learning every single day about acting, I just feel more confident in myself and the connections that I'm making. I feel more confident in myself. And, you should expect me on that screen to hopefully make an impact in your life through storytelling.
Amen. That's awesome. That's great to hear. And Christian, I really appreciate you doing this, man. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to make this work. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you guys have a great day. And Christian, you want to leave off with some final words?
There's a scripture that I use that helps me to get up in the morning, really gets me going. And I actually learned this at St. Thomas from on JV when we played Deerfield on our last game. And the coach quoted from Isaiah 6:8, and he was saying that God didn't ask this question out of because he was actually looking for. He was asking this question, being like, "Oh, I don't know who to pick." No, he knew that he wanted Isaiah, and Isaiah. It was just a chance for Isaiah to really proclaim himself. And it's just and he says, "Here I am, send me." And like, because God says, "For who shall we send?" And I remember during that game, he's like, "Who shall we send to go out there on the field? Who should we send to go out there and make sure that the proclamation of God's word is being told? Who we're going to send out and fight in battle?" And I say, "Here I am, send me." And I remember
Yeah,
I always said that to myself, just like, "Here I am, send me." You know what I'm saying? Don't be like, "Oh, go to this person, go to this person." No, 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 send me. I want to be the person to be out there on the forefront, and no matter what, even whether it be on that stage, on the field, or in the church room, in the gospel, where the gospel's being proclaimed, send me to those places because I want to be a soldier for Christ, and no matter what area that I am. So always remember, just keep going. Put your faith in Jesus Christ, and then when it's your time, don't be scared to back out, but say, "Here I am, send me."
that's awesome. I remember at St. Thomas, they would say that Bible verse before every single game. So
Mhm.
thank you for bringing it back up. And Christian, again, thank you so much for doing this, bro. Really appreciate it. And have a great day, guys.
No problem, bro. See you.
Peace out.
So